And welcome back, everybody. This is episode 3, I believe it is, of our Final Fantasy 6 T-Edition playthrough. We're getting to South Figaro. Oh, wow, I can actually run before getting the sprint shoes, which is an item that you normally can only get starting here. Of course, that is a character that ran into this pub that we'll be talking to in just a second if you're familiar with the game. Well, let's just take a second and talk around to some of the individuals, see if anything different is being said. So I guess everyone has their own little saying there. Edgar's is "It's my lucky day." It feels like there's a character later who would say that instead, but maybe he'll say it too. So as a recap, our party right now consists of Edgar, Locke, and Terra. They are, or at least Edgar and Locke, are members of a resistance called the Returners, and we are on our way to the Returners' hideout to the east on the other side of Mt Koltz. But en route, we stopped here at South Figaro, which is not technically ruled by Figaro, which is interesting. There's a dynamic there, I guess, because Edgar is the king of Figaro. But it's an independent town. But there's fears that the Empire is taking over places. Of course, we knew that they were up in Narsha earlier. So we're going to take a moment here and just get some new equipment. I have a lot of gil. And here are the tools that I mentioned earlier that we could get for Edgar if we needed them. I don't particularly use them because the auto crossbow is really the best bet for any given situation. However, I am going to grab a blade for Terra. Increases her attack pretty good. I feel like that's more than it usually does. I'll have to check that out. Alright, so here we have a couple of shields. We're going to get 2, and 1 can be a hand-me-down down to Locke. I'm going to get a couple plumed hats. Even the descriptions are more in-depth down there. Alright, so that should give us our equipment that we need. We're going to use the best option. This is going to give the best equipment of what's available automatically. Later in the game, when we can make strategic decisions, something may not be the strongest weapon, but may be supportive of some other way, such as a rod. We wouldn't use best in those cases, but early enough in the game, whatever we hit for best is going to be the best. Depending on money that we have, sometimes I'll turn right back around and sell what I had. In fact, typically you're a little tight on money at this stage of the game, historically. So I feel like the game is being a little bit more generous than usual when it comes to money. And let's take a look at the items here. So we've got potions. I'd like to use a few more antidotes, even though Terra does have the ability to use that with magic. Eye drops are going to be a big pain point. So we'll stock up on those. Phoenix Downs are far more expensive here. I feel like they're 500 in the other game, in the normal game. Tents are definitely far more expensive, so that's where they get you, it looks like. We'll probably need a few of those for Terra in case something happens to her. Those tents, though, man, that's gonna be difficult to get around. There is a little walkway. Oh, the walkway is gone. There's a hidden walkway normally right here. And later in the game, that is a shortcut that can be used, and that is gone, which means that when we come back to South Figaro later, we are gonna have to do it the old-fashioned way. Wow, looking forward to that. Alright, so the one, there's nothing we have to do in this town, but there is one event that takes place in the pub. We'll take the back way in. Ooh, normally there's a guy here who tells you all about relics. He is not here. Okay, so there are no sprint shoes because there's not a need for sprint shoes. Holding the B button lets you run. Normally there's a relic that you equip that allows you to run. That's not necessary anymore. So, silver specs. Oh, and it tells you clearly immune to blind. Star pendant, immune to poison, true knight, cover and protect at low HP. So these are normally here. But you see True Knight also gives a 10 boost to defense. Star Pendant gives a 2 boost to defense. So we are going to grab a couple of those. And they're going to go on Edgar and Tara. Alright, we'll take the upstairs route over to the pub. We could stay here at the inn. And depending on how much it is, I may take 80. I'll go ahead and take one up. Rest up, make sure MP's all the way up. Realistically, we probably should grab a tent for Mt Koltz, because Mt Koltz is going to be a little bit of a walk. I think if there's a treasure chest that normally has a tent halfway down. Whether it's still there or not, we'll have to wait and see. Ooh, that's an interesting piece of dialogue that wasn't there originally. So now that's the reason why the townspeople are so afraid of the Empire, is because Figaro Castle, right around the corner, I guess officially did stand up to the Empire. It's where we just left. Music change. This is the music anytime that this character is around. It's his theme. Comes and goes like the wind, swearing allegiance to no one. Behind his wintry gaze lies a face unknown to no one alive. So his character name is Shadow. However, I have a thing in any Final Fantasy where somebody has a nickname that is their character name. I like to change it to the real one. So Final Fantasy VII, Red 13 is really Nanaki. Dagger in 9 is really Garnet. This is Clyde. Now you don't actually learn his real name unless you do some side questing. In fact, you have to trigger an event that doesn't normally come around. Like, you just don't stumble on it unless you just happen to hit these series of events just right to find out what his name really is. But his name is Clyde. He goes by Shadow. But we like calling people by their real names in this. I think the original line was something like he would slit his mother's throat for the right price or something like that. So essentially, that's all that this is just an opportunity to name Shadow or Clyde. As you can tell, because we named him, we will be using him at some point later. He will join our party on several occasions as a mercenary. This little note about Vargas will come into play pretty soon. We'll be bumping it. That's interesting. You look just like that student of Duncan's. Well, Edgar is not, but he might look like somebody who is. Of course, we've already named Sabine in the flashback in the last episode. Alright, so I think that's all that we can do here. I do believe we will get a tent along the way, so I will not worry about it right this second. But we're going to go and leave town, throw a save out here. And just because we're going to make the most of the story of this playthrough, we also are going to visit this little house, which is called a training lodge. But Edgar's going to walk in and realize a lot of this is familiar. Flowers that were liked by somebody, dishes that were always used by somebody. Now, I have never been in somebody's house and said, hey, look at these dishes. They look familiar. Maybe it's just me, but... His favorite tea, his favorite bed, his favorite table, his favorite whatever that is. We can even sleep here and stay, which was stupid of me to stay at the inn in South Figaro knowing that. But when we leave, Edgar reveals who he's actually talking about. This is his brother's house, Sabine. So Sabine is a martial artist who's been training under a master martial artist named Duncan. We find out here that Duncan has actually been killed. Duncan's son Vargas is also missing, and that gives him a bad vibe. So as you can put the pieces together, we will be soon encountering Vargas, and ipso facto, Sabine. So I don't think that that's going to be a huge surprise to anyone who hasn't played the game. If you have, you know that's going to happen pretty soon. Zagrim. I forget what these guys are called originally. There's an iteration of them called Iron Fist. That's not these guys, that's later. I have my guys on the back row to absorb damage. However, it does cut their attack more than it cuts the damage from the enemies, if I remember how it described it right. So I take a third less damage, but deal half the damage back the other way. But that's beside the point, because really Edgar's going to be my damage dealer. He's going to just... We're going to rely on that auto crossbow. And so the little bit of damage that's done in excess of the crossbow is bonus damage. And of course, you know, Eric can throw a fire out every now and then if we need to. There will be some enemy groups that consist of like 5 enemies later on in here. That might be like a crossbow and a fire. You'll notice that crossbow did extra damage to the guy who was facing away from Edgar. So you do back attack damage in this game, which is kind of cool. But the same happens to you as well. So we can go down underneath this little facade that's blocking our vision for an item here. We have not got any of the mammoths yet, which is great. There's another enemy in this cave that's some sort of a mammoth that uses Blizzard on the whole party. You might remember when we were the Moogle party, it used it on us once or twice, and it does a lot of damage. Those guys are here too, and I'd like to avoid them as much as possible. Just wanted to take a look and see how far we are away from a level up based on the experience we're getting. So that's going to increase Locke's evasion, which is what that weapon is in real life. It's basically, it's normally a weapon to be held in the offhand. So some Final Fantasies and other games will allow you to hold up the primary weapon and then the main gouge in the offhand. This one's not allowing us to do that, but it still increases evasion, which is the purpose of such a weapon in real life. Now these little slugs are brand new. These guys are not normally, not only are they not normally here, they're not normally an enemy that I'm aware of here in Final Fantasy VI. So they are a complete new addition, which is really cool. Oof. So this was the mammoth that I had mentioned. Maybe Blizzard is not part of its weapon repertoire here. But they are, they're going to be bullies. I don't want to have to fight too many of them. This is a good opportunity for me to actually see. So they heal about 90. Okay. Just keen to pay attention to how much things actually heal, because in the heat of battle or in a pinch, that may mean the difference between life and death in the battle. So here's another way we can sneak around. Normally there is an awesome relic that I will be using for the rest of the game here, and it's still here, the Atlas Armlet. So this increases fight damage, not necessarily attack, but fight damage, power, physical damage. It's going to drop my speed and magic a little bit. It's going to increase the defense a little bit, but more important than that, it's going to increase power, which is directly going to relate to damage on the auto crossbow. And that's really why we want that on Edgar. And he's going to be our primary damage dealer for a good little bit. In fact, I'd probably say as long as he's available as a party member, It's going to be a role he plays. And later he will get some other tools that will do a little bit more damage, do a little bit better. And when that time comes, you know, we'll diversify. But we'll also have more characters by then. In fact, this game will give us 14 characters total by the end. All have their pros and cons, their advantages and disadvantages. Edgar usually will make it to my top 5 characters in usage. Terra will definitely be used because of her magic prowess. Later when she gets some better spells, she'll be able to do a great amount of damage. Another character that we'll have for the majority of the game is the next one that we're going to get shortly. And you'll see why when we get him. So he's going to counter with core, which I think he actually does do that in the game also. So we need to stop actually attacking him. So it's really cool that they added these just new monsters. It's a nice little extra flavor to this game, I think. It looks like me staying in the back row is going to be an important strategy as this game is harder. I'm pretty sure Terra and Orlok would have been dead by the damage given to them at this point, while the hits they're taking. It feels like they have lower hit points than they normally would at this point. Maybe that's not true. I feel like this is where the tent is. Maybe. So I have no items. That could be part of whatever code was necessary to add new monsters in. Maybe that couldn't carry over for one reason or another, I'm not sure. But good to know. So Locke's steal percentage is decent in this game. There will be some relics you can get later, as well as some weapons that will increase that even more so. There are a couple of times in the game where stealing something is going to pay off. But for the most part, anything you could steal you can buy in the store or find somewhere else. There are very few stealable, yep, there's the tent, stealable one-timing kind of things. That can be the case in other Final Fantasies, like 8 with the GFs that you have to draw off of, yeah, we won't be fighting this. For that reason. So I'm already going to have to use one of my extremely expensive Phoenix Downs because of this little backpack. Perhaps I was being a little too careless. Potions were fairly inexpensive in town, so maybe I'll just keep a high stock of them and just use them unsparingly and be liberal with them. Now, I am recording right now, and I did do a dumb thing and didn't do a sound check before starting the recording. I've noticed that my audio is a little loud. I'm not sure if it's cycling back through. I hope it's not. I'll try to correct that in post if it is, but perhaps I can give a live apology if there is any feedback or loopback with that sound. I am wearing a headset while I do this, but it is rather loud in my ear. I think the experience is a little low as well. Kira's going to get knocked out quite a bit unless she starts getting some hit points. Here is our save point. She has plenty of MP still, so I really don't feel like I need to use that tent. So maybe I can save it for a point in the future. I still have a little walk down though until I get to the boss. Oh, the counter is even on the skill attempt. Okay. See, Locke's getting a lot of dodges in because of the main Gauche weapon, because of, I think, something that he equipped from a armor standpoint. As a thief class, he's gonna be weaker physically, weaker defensively. That's where it comes and makes up, is in his evasion. Oops. Edgar should be getting another level here shortly, I believe. Or, not Edgar, I'm sorry, Tara. So she should be up by the time that we get to this boss. And I feel like Locke was right behind her. Hey, a high potion. I paid off with that. There's Tara getting a level. So they are far more generous with the money. I noticed how much gil I'm actually getting. She did not get a lot of hit points in that level up. Should still be okay. This boss fight is not going to be dependent on whether Tara lives or not. The next boss after will, though, and so I'm kind of preparing mentally for that. Edgar will not be the major damage dealer for the next boss after this one. It'll be Tara, and so I'll need her to be prepared. Perhaps I should have bought a True Knight for her, like for somebody else in the party to guard her. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. So I'm noticing there's some battles we're not getting here. There is normally a monster that looks like a giant vine, like an anthropomorphic living vine. And then there are these cockatrices that were showing up earlier. Normally they're not cockatrices, they are something different. I'm trying to remember what they're called, but they're a different flying thing. So Locke's going to get a level, and that's going to be the last level before we get to this boss. Probably going to fight 2 more battles or so before we get there. Make sure everybody's healed up. So again, I didn't look at the release notes for this of all the changes, so some of this I'm guessing and I may be incorrect, but I feel like some of the quote-unquote additional challenge is balancing in strength and hit points and things like that. I do feel like all the characters should be at least at 200 hit points by the time I get to this boss usually. And the fact that Terra's at 153 in a double-digit level is concerning. A lock, even though he is traditionally a thief class, we'll get to a point where he'll deal out some decent damage later in the game. I am not sure I've ever seen the auto crossbow miss. It missed on that cockatrice. And it turned me to stone. That is new. There is not somebody who can turn somebody to stone normally here. The nice thing about stone, as you just saw there, is that it is still a target that can be hit and it will hit for 0. But for everything being said and done, it is still technically a KO status. So if everyone else in the party dies, that's considered game over. Whew, this is getting scary. I'm glad I got that gold needle, but I honestly and truthfully did not think I was going to need any this early in the game. Oh, and it dropped a gold needle. Good. So, yikes. Okay. Okay, so this is my levels. This, as you can probably assume, is Vargas. This being the kind of game where it's going to be difficult, I am going to take every battle and not run from anything. I feel like running just to get on with this boss fight. And also because of the little petrifying thing that took place. But I feel like I just need to get as much experience as I can. There may even be some level grinding up involved in this gameplay. That may be taken as it comes. I may decide to cut it for time purposes. I love to grind. Level grinding is therapeutic and relaxing for me when I'm playing a video game. But I can't imagine it's fun to watch. So should that ever happen, I'll make sure that everyone is aware that some footage was cut. We are getting some good experience out of these battles. And if I truly needed to and wanted to, I could hang around long enough to level up. But barring anything extraordinarily surprising, should be able to take him out where we are now. Alright, so we can't actually target Vargas. We can only target his cronies here, who are normally coincidentally bears. So I guess it kind of makes sense that they should be martial artists. Brawlers, by the way, were the name of the enemies that we should have been fighting the whole way up in the caves. The red martial artist guys. Ooh! Vargas is attacking where the brawlers are gone. Okay. Added level of difficulty there. Maybe he does that, I'm not sure. I just know that I can't target Vargas until the brawlers are gone. Looks like those potions are doing a solid 90. I'm going to keep taking my time with this battle, not do anything drastic, go all out on an offensive just yet. It's normally the bears, which are called Ipus, usually will fall in a couple of rounds. these guys are holding their own, so we're going to slow play this one. There goes one, there's the other. Oops, should have tried to steal from him, see what he had. Now that Blizzard Fist is, here it comes again, so he's going to start hitting everybody. Normally that's called Gale Cut or Gale Wind. Blizzard Fist is actually the name of a move that he will use later, coincidentally. So he's got no items. Okay. So, unless he's got some sort of surprise waiting for us, this should be it then. We'll just go ahead and attack. I have no idea why I just tried to steal again. Almost did it again. There we go. There's the Blizzard Fist. So he's going to put a doom on me. Doesn't matter. He dies in one hit so long as you use the proper blitz. This is a mechanic to teach you how Savin's Blitz works. Essentially, you select Blitz and then you put in a key command, and then it does a different Blitz based on your key command. The first one, as you saw, normally it's called Pummel. That was Burst Fist, I think it just said. Just left, right, left. It's very very Street Fighter-ish, because Street Fighter was out, shortly before this. Interestingly, you have to use Pummel. You can't just use any Blitz, because I've tried, it only teaches you Burst Fist or Pummel if you hang around for a few seconds. But if you tried because you knew the other ones, it actually wouldn't work to finish them off like that. Just an interesting tidbit. I like how Locke looks surprised. He actually acts like he knows in the actual dialogue. Normally she says a bodybuilder that's straight from his gym. And then he says, I'll take that as a compliment. Which he still says. That's interesting dialogue that normally is not originally there. So this makes a little bit more sense. The Gorgias, I guess, was like those mammoth creatures. Normally he says, think a bear like me could be of any help, which doesn't really make any sense in the context of him not actually being called a bear before. So this makes quite a bit more sense, since that's what Tara just called him. Perhaps that was a bad translation originally. Alright, so we have Sabin in our party. What am I doing? What am I doing? There we go. So we're going to allow Sabin to stay on the front row here. Going to give him a little help on the defense. And we're also going to take a look at his blitzes, just make sure none of them change, and they have not. So left, right, left, down to forward, X, Y, down, up. Damages one enemy, ignores defense. Light element damage, this is aura bolt, and we will be using aura bolt quite a bit in this game. It's because it's holy based. It is one of the very few attacks, and you get it early, that is holy based. And there aren't a ton of enemies that are explicitly weak to holy, but there are very few that are strong to holy, and so that comes to our advantage. So let's test a little bit of this out now. Oops. Wow, so normally you put the command in and he goes before anyone else does. So they're calling it Aura Cannon instead of Aura Blast. You can see right there by that damage, compared to the damage that we're doing the rest of the team. We're gonna be in good hands with Sabin. Now when Sabin gets level 15, which is going to be our objective before we get to the end of the first main chapter of this game, which a couple hours away from that still. But Sabin will need to be at 15 to get his 4th blitz by then, because there's like this major battle that takes place at the end of what we like to call the end of the first chapter of the game. And that 4th blitz is basically just going to be used 24, 25 times. Bam, 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 bam. So we're really looking forward to that. That just gives us a target goal. That is cool. Those are the imps from Final Fantasy IV, maybe even 1. That's pretty cool. Meteor Strike is going to be suplex. And yes, we will be suplexing a train, so stay tuned for that. Wow, that's the most hit points an imp has ever had. Excuse me, goblin. There we go. How far are we from interrogating a level? Get there. Okay. I'm going to throw a save here. We are not ending this clip just yet, but that will probably be the last battle. We're going to enter the Returner's hideout and do a couple of things. Most all is plot related. So as we enter the headquarters of the Returners, we are going to meet the leader of the Resistance. His name is Bannon. We're going to learn a little bit about what this whole war is about. What the Returners, the Resistance, what their objective, what their goal is. And why exactly Terra is so important to this whole thing. Because evidently when they caught wind of who she was and what she could do, she became the target of the Returners. I like how Locke responds immediately to protecting her, quote unquote. Bannon is a little no-nonsense, but he is sympathetic. Tells the Pandora's box story here. Now we're going to get to be Terra for just a few moments to talk to everybody in the party, to hear what their thoughts are with a one-on-one conversation. This is perhaps the first real big step toward knowing Locke's backstory. The Empire stole someone important from me. I've hated it ever since. If no one stands up to the Empire, more people will be left like me. So we've learned that Locke feels like he let somebody down in the past. But here we see that this is actually tied in with something that the Empire did. And that's why his frustration is turned against the Empire in that event. Terra also begins to be introspective about the fact that she feels alone in the world. She's clearly different. This whole thing is about her identity of who she is, but that's exacerbated by the fact that there is nobody that she can consider a family or friend. There's no one she can talk to. There's no one that is like her that she can sympathize with. So Edgar should be walking around up here. Nope. That hair lancet is a weapon for Locke that we will be using. And there's a true knight. Might actually use that later. Should be a white cape over here. This white cape is a relic. And it is going to make her immune to Toad, but that's not the real reason we're equipping it, as you can tell by the defense and the magic defense, which Terra sorely needs, being so low hit points. And we're going to need her to stay alive in this next series of events, next battles. So Sabine helps us to appreciate from an objective standpoint that Edgar is trustworthy. He is a flirt and mischievous in certain areas, but Sabine, his own brother, says he's trustworthy. You don't have to doubt his character. I do love Sabine's laugh sprite. We'll see that a few times throughout this game. And then finally Edgar. As a king, he's realistic about understanding that they're asking Terra to do the same thing that she was doing for the Empire, but for them. So essentially he's saying, you do need to decide this for yourself. And of course we know how that is going to play into her sense of identity. She's trying to identify who she is. She doesn't even know the concept between right and wrong. She's been under the influence of a slave crown for so long. So after talking to everybody, that triggers an event where this man will move. And this is where Bannon will ask, will we join him? Normally we would say yes, and we would move on with the plot, and he would give us a relic. However, we're going to say no. And anyone who's played this game and knows it intimately is knowing why I'm doing this. We're going to say no 3 times. And it will advance the plot forward, but we will get a different item from him in doing so. But this is more introspective when we go this route, because Terra voices some of her doubt, where she doesn't do that if we say yes. However, what will move this plot along now is not Terra saying yes, but word coming that the Empire is on the move. South Figaro was taken by the Empire, and they know where the Returner's hideout is. Someone has to sneak into South Figaro and slow down the enemy. I love this conversation. I've always loved this little conversation here. Goes into protective mode again. So we're going to escape out the back door, so to speak. There is a river behind this hideout. We're going to get on a raft and we're going to take the river back to Narsha again. Bannon wants to see the Esper for himself, and there are sympathizers in Narsha, such as Arvis that we met earlier. I understand your apprehension. Too many innocent lives have been lost to the Empire while we stand at nothing. So we get the Genji glove for saying no 3 times. Now this is a much more important relic than the Guardian, which is what we would have gotten, which essentially is a Gauntlet. It allows you to hold a weapon in 2 hands, increases the damage. The Genji glove lets you hold 2 weapons. So not only do you do more damage, but you can vary the types of weapons you hold. And we are going to be giving that to Edgar, along with that Atlas armlet. Because while holding 2 different weapons, that's going to increase his power even much more so, which means that his crossbow is going to do more damage. Now that's going to allow us to put the True Knight on Sabin, since he has lots and lots of hit points. You're going to want to put Bannon on the back row, and we'll see why in the next clip, because we're getting close to the end of this one. And they did not heal me. I'm a little upset by that, to be honest. Let's see if they'll let me do an end stay before we... Which would be the kind of thing that you'd expect in a role-playing game, right? The Empire's right around the corner, they'll be here any minute. Let's go sleep in the inn. Oh yeah. There you go. We're gonna need those MP. Alright, so that is really gonna do it for this episode. We have plenty of eye drops, but there are going to be some enemies that are going to blind us. Let's go ahead and round that up to a nice 40. Alright, so we're going to throw another save in, and that's going to be it for this episode. On our next episode, we will be going down the Lethe River, and we will be fighting a very iconic boss that we will see many, many times. If you've played the game before, you know who we're talking about. So, thanks for watching, and hope that you leave a comment, leave a like, whatever you'd like to do, of course. But we'll see you next time.